I had a good childhood until I was in about 5th grade, and then my parents fell into some pretty bad addiction problems, and it pretty much just got worse from there.
I can remember being very young, and my dad was definitely the anchor of the family. You know, he would always, just a great leader, loved my mom, loved us, and when I was a little boy, I can remember being maybe 6 or 7 when I could actually grasp the concept that he was ill, that he had lung cancer, and it had developed from his mouth and spread to his lungs, and he had cancer ever since I was a baby.
You know, my mom was a single mom. She was involved in drugs, selling them, so it was pretty scary. I saw a lot of pretty violent things before I was even like 6 years old, and we moved to California. We lived in a pretty bad neighborhood, so I got pretty heavily involved in gangs and drugs and violence and ego, and you know, so we channeled that into music, and you know, I started doing rap in the 90s, performing in nightclubs and being out at late at night with flashing lights and alcohol and all these sounds, and it was like, even back then I didn't like it.
And I tried replacing the love of my parents and the love of my family with boys, and it wasn't right in the end, and I made a lot of mistakes.
I was 11 years old when my dad passed. You know, that's when I realized that I was tired. I wanted a dad, and there was a big void in my life. So I definitely began going through a time where we just began partying, and I was fed up. I was mad, I was angry. My anger came to expression just through binge drinking. It came to expression through excessive use of marijuana, you know, to try to cope with what had happened. I had no other desire, no other want than to do that at that point in time.
Just happened to run into a good friend of mine, William, at the store. I'll never forget it. You know, it was right there at the Red Box. I tried to bring him into my chaos. I'll never forget it. He put his hand on my shoulder and he was like, Jesus. And it just floored me, because I wasn't ready for that. I didn't want to be reminded of the truth that I already knew, because I wanted to find it out for myself. He didn't give up on me. He kept in touch with me, and he kept telling me about Sanctuary. I had my own preconceptions about the church itself, the people that go to church, the industry side of it and the whole thing, and I was very anti-church. And I told him that, and he was just like, I get it, I understand that. Come anyway.
One day I went over to my best friend's house on a Wednesday night, and she was going to Sanctuary, and so I figured, why not? Like, she said it's a lot of fun and they have free food. So I went, and it completely changed my outlook on going to church, because it felt like a safe place, a place where I was loved. And so I continued going, and I'd go every single Wednesday night.
And finally one night, you know, we had a party at the house, and I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning on the floor, completely alone. Everyone was gone. The music was still going. The doors were wide open in the house, but there was nobody there. I remember laying on my back, looking up at the ceiling, and just being broken. And at that point in time, that's when I realized that was rock bottom for me. That was the point where I really felt in my heart God had to bring me to that point of being in complete submission, like a little baby, just helpless on the floor and just broken and alone. God just spoke to my heart and said, hey, you know what, it's time to come back.
You know, we went down to San Bernardino, 7th and H. I'm very familiar with that area. And, you know, it's hurting and it's broken, and where there's bad stuff happening everywhere. I mean, everywhere. I mean, right across the street there's prostitution. There's a dude on the corner with, you know, the sack in his pocket. And for us to be able to go out there and knock on doors and get people to come, I mean, it made me feel great. It made me feel, maybe not the first time in my life, but the most intense time in my life of feeling like I'm actually doing something good. Like I'm doing something for a reason other than serving my own ego, you know, like helping these people because of that feeling of looking at someone else's face and knowing that you're helping them and knowing that it's from God, like you're being used as a vessel to change this person's life. There's not a better feeling than that.
I just remember walking outside when we were released for prayer, and I just felt an overwhelming sense of love and acceptance, and it was something like I've never felt before. I knew then and there that it was God and that He loved me, and that for once He was always going to love me, and it completely changed my life. That moment changed my life. Then one day, March of this year, my family just decided, like, hey, let's all go to church. And they were skeptical about coming to Sanctuary at first, but they tried it and they fell in love with it the first time. My aunts come and my mom comes, my grandma, and all of my siblings and all of my cousins, and they all love it.
The Serve experience really, really opened my eyes and really was a way for God to reveal to me where He wants me to be. And ever since then, it's completely, it's been a game changer. I would tell the person that, that's skeptical or uncertain or unsure, if you give it a chance, if you take that step, it is life-changing.
I give you my word that it's worth it, and it will really, literally change your life. I mean, if I could tell myself, 2 years ago or whatever, when the idea first started being presented, I would shake me and say, just go and do it.
This last summer camp, God spoke to me in ways that I've never felt before, and He's called me to do things for Him. I think one of the things that He calls me to is to be a leader here at Sanctuary Church. I encourage you to come, and I've been in your position before and you're skeptical about it and maybe you're afraid, but I know that once I stepped out of my comfort zone and came, it has changed so many things and it's benefited me in so many ways that I couldn't even explain.